working on the dump truck today. I got all the shit to put the transmission back in. Got the flywheel on there, got it torqued down, getting ready to put the clutch in. A couple of different ways we can go about that. I got that adapter, which is just an input shaft welded to a big piece of angle iron, bolted to the transmission jack. You would think you'd slide all the stuff on there, shove it under the truck, bolt it to the flywheel. Some guys are saying to take a 3-inch bolt, cut the head off it, grind a little slot in it for a screwdriver, put it in the top 2 bolts on the bell housing. Well, this is the old one, but you know, you can put it in here or here, one of them that fits, you know. So if you put them in like that, while so this is the old one, I'm just showing you. But put them in the top of the new one, you can hang your pressure plate from that while you get all the rest of the bolts started around it. So I'm gonna take those under the truck with me and assess the situation and just see which way will be best for my application, because some of them are different.
These are the dogs, I call them. I don't know if that's right, but the Eaton Fuller YouTube channel is calling those drive pins. Okay, they come through. You can see, yeah, it sticks out a little bit right there. Your new flywheel does not come with those drive pins unless you ask for them. You can probably get new ones. I did not ask for them. They have a part number stamped right in the end of them on this end. So they got to be square like this. They got to be all the way in, and there's like a collar, a groove coincides with this. So these are the holes that your pressure plate bolts on, and in the bottom of them is a set screw. Another thing, you know, you got your locating studs. So just cut the head off a bolt with a grinder, grind a little tab in it so you can use a screwdriver to twist it out. Put the first disc in, it's just going to float because it won't sit where it's supposed to be. Then I'm going to put the intermediate plate in, which is going to hug these drive pins. See how you got this cutout in the intermediate plate? Those set around them drive pins. So that will technically be centered. And then at that point, I got to put those anti-rattle springs in. They go in like this, around this edge, in thirds, because there's 3 of them. If I can make that happen, and that bullshit will stay up there, then I'm going to put the second disc in the pressure plate on my jack, because it has a input shaft. The problem with that input shaft is it's got a big piece of angle iron welded on the back of it so it can bolt to the jack. That means I can't slide things like this. Like the discs won't slide over the back because the discs are splined inside. The pressure plate isn't splined. It will go over the back of the input shaft if you hack the gear off. You know, so you got an old input shaft, hack the end of, you know, the gear off the end of it. Don't weld no angle iron on the back of it. Weld a big long bolt on the back of it so you can draw it out once it's in there. Flywheel side. Okay. The shaft. would be nice. Especially since that doesn't stay. Oh, look at that. Make the dogs do your work. I kind of feel like once this is lined up with the dogs, it will do me some favors. Okay. Like hold that in. Alright, so if I wind up with a dent in my head, this is why. That son of a bitch fell out and dented my head. The little diagram on here you probably can't see in the light, but it says engine and then there's an arrow. This thing goes like this right here. You gotta make it. Holy shit. It went in. I cannot believe it. So thirds, one must be there and there. All right. Now if this thing stays, okay, you gotta get those between them dogs. They're pretty thin. They will contour without much effort, but they gotta go between the dogs. I feel like there's just enough room to get them in there. All right, stay in there. Verify which side. This says pressure plate side, which is this side facing the back of the vehicle. You can do it like that, but that ain't gonna stay up in there. And I'm gonna need 3 hands to get that flywheel up here. So I think what I have to do, and it's not a big deal, this just slides over the shaft. Like I said, it's not splined, so it goes right on. Again, make sure your sides are where they're supposed to be. Pressure plate side, pressure plate side. So this is splined, so it'll go on them splines or it won't go. Just like, you know. So I can shove this under there, jack it up. Yeah, it's pretty close. You can see what's going on. This is a good thing. Got the transmission on the jack. Got it strapped down so it doesn't fall off and crush my leg or my arm or my face. Get it in there, you know, get it underneath the truck and get it squared up to the engine, and I should be able to just slide it in. I need a wrecking bar. Already got a problem. Just like when we were pulling out, bell housing's trying to get hooked on the valve for my hydraulic tank, which is really a bad thing. Clear the valve, hitting the tire right here. All right. Well, we got it under here. That's pretty good. Let's see if we can. All right. Where is that coming from? Gotta crawl around the back, get on top of the transmission, and click it into gear. That way, you know, the likelihood of them splines being lined up with the splines in the clutch discs is slim to none. So you click it into gear, and then if that doesn't line up, you can grab the tail shaft and spin it a little bit, and that'll transfer up to here. It's all, I mean, it's not all in, but it's in, right? The transmission is in all the way. I got a couple of bolts, what, 3 or 4 of them started around the bell housing. There it is. It's like a little leaf spring type thing. That just keeps tension on the back of the transmission. See right here, that spring goes right here, bolts on, and then once on each side of the frame rail there's a little bracket that it just sets on over there, and when you tighten it down here, you know, it has spring tension on it, so it'll give it a little bit of flex instead of that. You know, say if that was unsupported, it would be like all the way to that transmission just hanging on the bell housing. As far as the completion of this transmission removal, repair, and replace, I'm all done. I put all the supporting aspects of this back on. I didn't film any of it because it was just tight, tedious. Oh, I had to think about how to do a lot of this shit. So I moved that tank. It used to be hanging back here on the side of that hydraulic tank, and I moved it forward so it was on the same cross members as this air tank, and I pretty much painted the cross members and the air tanks after I sanded them down. I had to replumb most of the air lines for this tank, not this one. This is the main feed line coming into that tank. So basically what I did is I flipped that around. You know, that far end of that tank used to be down here. So I just flopped it around. So the main feed was in the same spot. I just ran a new line there because the old one was formed a little different, like muscle memory or something you could call it. But we got the new PTO installed. We got the new hydraulic pump installed. I put the right here, I put the air actuated up and down valve on. That was pretty simple once I actually got into it. And that was kind of it. We got the new lines going to the cooler hooked up. I don't know if you can see that little 90, that's a grease fitting going up to the pivot point for the clutch. I don't even know what that's called. Clutch rod, arm rod type thing. So I just wanted to show you all of this assembled before I ended the video, because I have a habit of doing that. I did have an issue once I was all done installing this transmission and all that stuff I just showed you. I started the truck and it would not go into gear. So that was very, very disappointing, I guess you could say. So I adjusted the clutch inside out, upside down, and it didn't make no difference. So I wound up pulling the transmission back out and found a problem with the intermediate plate and the drive pins. I'll put a little explanation of that at the end here. She's all ready to go. You know, there is no problems. I've been working on that and loving it. That Chevy. I've been working on this frame for that Chevy and loving it. I bought an on-off road Triumph Scrambler 1200. That's amazing. Loving it. Getting ready to work on this Army truck for the square body project. Loving it. I look at this thing and it's just miserable. Miserable truck. Miserable. Hate you. I hate you. Stupid truck. Nothing ever goes nicely working on this truck. It's such a miserable mother, I'm telling you. So I'm gonna put an explanation of the bullshit I went through with the transmission, taking it back out for the second time. And it'll explain what the problem was, and it will give you pointers on what not to do to make sure, you know, it doesn't happen to you. That being said, here it is. I'm out. best way to explain how to prevent what happened that caused the transmission to not be able to go into gear is when you put your drive pins from the inside of the flywheel through the flywheel, you got to make sure, use a little square and true them up so they're not twisted in there. You know, they got to be straight 100%, because this thing slides on them when you push the clutch in and release it. This thing slides on those drive pins, and if this is the drive pin and it's in here, if it's turned, that's not going to slide on there. And that is what happened in my setup. I set them straight like the instructions said. The problem was I either skipped, forgot to tighten one of the set screws, or I just didn't get it tight enough, which is probably what happened. I just didn't get it tight enough. So it actually turned as I was putting the transmission in, or upon startup. Who knows when it turned, but before I put it in gear, that sucker turned just enough to keep that setup from sliding back and forth and wouldn't let it go into gear, which inevitably caused me to have to remove the transmission again. I was 100% done, so that really sucked. So this isn't an instructional video, you know, I just am recording what I'm doing here. As far as taking the transmission out and putting it back in, getting a new clutch. In hindsight, seeing the problem that I had and knowing what to do, it still got screwed up. I'm just trying to give you all some pointers if you're looking to this video for any form of instruction on doing this. Here's one thing you want to make sure absolutely doesn't happen. Side note, you can see this one is a lot bigger than that one. That might happen when you don't use those anti-rattle springs. Well, if this video was helpful in any way, remember it's not an instructional video. If you can gain anything from it, that's great, but don't base your repairs on anything I say, because I have no clue what I am doing. If you think I'm an idiot, go ahead and subscribe and like this video and all that junk. So I got other cool stuff to do, so I'm getting the heck out of here. Thanks for watching.